Apex sharing is one of the most consistently misunderstood areas of Salesforce security. Not because the concepts are difficult, they are clean and logical, but because the default behavior is counterintuitive. Apex does not respect sharing rules by default. It does the opposite. In this tutorial, we cover all four mechanisms: the with sharing, without sharing, and inherited sharing keywords, plus Apex managed sharing using share objects. By the end, you will know exactly which keyword belongs on every class you write, and how to implement programmatic sharing when declarative tools cannot express your business logic. Before writing a single line of Apex, understand the security stack Salesforce uses to decide what a user can see. It starts with organization-wide defaults, the baseline visibility for each object, the floor. On top sits the role hierarchy. Managers can see records owned by people below them. Then sharing rules extend access based on ownership or criteria. Finally, manual and Apex managed sharing add individual exceptions. When Apex runs without the right keyword, it skips every layer of this stack entirely, returning all records regardless of who is running the code. Here is the default that surprises most developers. When you write an Apex class and declare no sharing keyword, the code runs in what Salesforce calls system context. System context means full visibility of every record in the org. Your SOQL queries return all rows. Your DML operations succeed on any record. The running user's OWD setting, role hierarchy position, and sharing rules are invisible to the code. This is not a bug, it is the design default. The problem is that most code intended to serve a specific user never explicitly opts into enforcing their permissions. With sharing is the keyword that opts your class back into the Salesforce sharing model. Declare it, and every SOQL query in that class returns only the records the running user has permission to see under their normal configuration. If OWD is private and a user owns 3 accounts, a SOQL and A with sharing class returns exactly 3 rows. DML also respects sharing. If the user has read-only access to a record, an update attempt throws a DML exception. Use with sharing on every class that handles a user-initiated operation. This is the correct safe default for most business logic. Without sharing tells Apex to run in system context, seeing every record in the org regardless of who triggered execution. That sounds alarming, and it should be treated with discipline, but there are valid use cases. A nightly batch processing all open cases. An audit logger writing records for every change regardless of caller. A duplicate detection utility comparing records across every user's data. The critical rule: keep without sharing classes small and focused. They should never directly return data to a user interface. If they do, you must write your own authorization logic inside the class. Inherited sharing was introduced in API version 42.0. A class declared with this keyword adopts the sharing context of whoever calls it. If A with sharing controller calls a method on an inherited sharing utility, the utility runs with sharing enforced. If A without sharing batch job calls the same method, the utility runs in system context. This is ideal for repository or service classes used across multiple layers of your application. Think of it as neutral. The utility carries no fixed security decision, and the caller's declaration determines the behavior. Write the class once, deploy it safely in both contexts. Here is the trap that catches experienced developers. If you write a class and omit the sharing keyword entirely, Apex does not behave like inherited sharing. It behaves like without sharing. Full system context, no sharing enforced. The danger is not just runtime data exposure. It is in code review. There is no explicit without sharing to flag. The absence of a keyword is easy to miss. This is why the checklist rule exists. Every class must have an explicit sharing declaration. If you are unsure which keyword fits, start with sharing and adjust only when you have a specific documented reason. Use with sharing on every class that sits in the path of a user request. That means every Apex controller backing a Lightning Web Component or Aura component. Every service class called from those controllers. Every REST endpoint that returns data to an authenticated user. Every trigger handler where logic evaluates records from the running user's perspective. When in doubt, default to with sharing. If the logic breaks, because it genuinely needs access to records across sharing boundaries, that is the signal to examine whether a scoped without sharing inner class is the right answer, not a reason to remove the keyword. Without sharing belongs in a specific category, platform utilities that, by design, must operate across the entire org, where the class itself handles authorization rather than delegating to Salesforce sharing rules. Batch jobs and scheduled jobs are the clearest examples. A nightly batch assigning leads based on territory logic must see all leads regardless of ownership. An audit logger must write records regardless of who triggered the event. The rule of thumb: if the class serves the platform rather than a specific user session, without sharing is appropriate. Document the reason clearly so future developers understand the intent. A powerful pattern uses both keywords in the same file. The outer class is declared with sharing. It handles user requests and returns only records the user can see. For one specific privileged operation, you create a private inner class declared without sharing. The inner class performs only the minimum DML required. No SOQL returning data to the caller, no wide surface area. This keeps elevated privilege small and auditable. The with sharing wrapper ensures the user cannot see anything outside their access. The inner class handles the single operation they are authorized to trigger. When declarative sharing rules are not sufficient, for example, a project management app where team membership is tracked in a junction object and changes at runtime, you use Apex Managed Sharing. Salesforce creates a share object for every standard and custom object. For a custom object called project__c, the share object is project__share. For account, it is account share. You insert records on these share objects programmatically to grant access. The distinction between this and user-added manual sharing is the rocause field. It identifies who or what created the share and why. Every share record has 4 fields to know. Parent ID is the record being shared. User or group ID is the user, role, or public group receiving access. Access level is read, edit, or all, where all grants full control and is only available on some objects. And rocause identifies why the share exists. For Apex Managed Sharing, you must use a custom share reason, not the system value manual. Create share reasons and set up on the custom object under Apex Sharing Reasons. Salesforce appends __c to your label. In Apex, reference it as a string. Project_member_c. Let's write the code. Your class is declared without sharing because creating share records requires elevated access. Instantiate project__share. Set parent ID to the project ID. Set user or group ID to the user receiving access. Set access level to edit or read. Set rocause to your custom share reason string. Then call insert share. One detail: inserting a share record that already exists throws a duplicate_value DML exception. Wrap the insert in a try-catch and inspect the error message. Usually you swallow the duplicate. The access already exists, which is the outcome the caller wanted. Standard objects have slightly different share structures. Account share uses account ID rather than parent ID. The bigger difference is that it requires 3 access level fields: account access level, opportunity access level, and case access level, all required. If you only need the user to see the account, but not related opportunities or cases, set those to none explicitly. The reason: sharing an account does not automatically imply sharing its related records, so Salesforce asks you to be explicit about each. Other standard objects like case and contact use a single access level field without these related object complications. The most common mistake with Apex Managed Sharing is using manual as the rocause. Manual is the system-defined rocause for shares added by a user through the standard Salesforce UI. If your Apex creates share records with rocause equals manual, those records are indistinguishable from user-added shares in platform tools and reports. You cannot audit them separately, cannot recalculate them programmatically, and Salesforce may interfere with them during standard recalculation events. Always create a custom share reason and setup. Use that as your rocause. Your Apex Managed Shares become auditable, distinguishable, and handled correctly by Salesforce internals. Account share has one more quirk worth knowing before you hit it in production. You must set account access level, opportunity access level, and case access level. All 3 are required fields on the object. Missing one throws a DML error. Set the ones you do not need to none explicitly. This design reflects that accounts sit at the top of a hierarchy. Granting access to an account has implications for its related opportunities and cases, so Salesforce requires you to state your intent for each. Custom objects and most other standard objects use a single access level field and do not have this requirement. In triggers and batch jobs, you will create share records for potentially thousands of records at once. Never insert share records one at a time inside a loop. That is a governor limit violation. The pattern, build a list project__ share inside the loop, then call database.insert share list false once outside it. The false parameter means all or none equals false. The insert partially succeeds even if some records fail. That matters because a duplicate share record fails, and you do not want that rolling back the valid inserts. Iterate the save result array afterward and log any errors that are not duplicate_value. To test with sharing behavior, you must simulate a user with limited permissions executing your code. Apex tests run in system context by default, meaning plain SOQL returns all records regardless of sharing rules. The solution is system.runAs. Create a test user with a standard profile in @test_setup. Insert records with specific ownership. Then inside system.runAs, test user, call your service class and assert what the user sees. Always document which OWD setting the test assumes. The same assertion behaves differently across org configurations with different OWD settings. Without that note, future maintainers will not understand why the assertion passes or fails. Before shipping any Apex class, run through 6 checks. 1. Every class has an explicit sharing keyword, no implicit system context. 2. Without sharing classes are small, scoped, and contain no SOQL returning data to a UI. 3. Apex managed sharing uses a custom row cause, not manual. 4. Share records are inserted in bulk using a single DML call, never inside a loop. 5. Share records are deleted when the underlying business relationship ends. Do not leave orphaned rows. 6. Tests use system.runAs to assert behavior from the perspective of a limited user. Pass all 6 before the PR is reviewed. That is the complete picture of Apex sharing. The full article at realsyllabus.com, session 67, contains all the working code from this tutorial. The with sharing and without sharing class examples, the inner class escalation pattern, the custom object and standard object sharing services, the bulk DML implementation, and the test class with system.runAs. If Salesforce development is the career you are building, Real Syllabus covers the practical knowledge trailhead skips, from architecture patterns to real org dynamics to the decisions nobody explains in certification prep. Subscribe at realsyllabus.com.